Once again welcome in our session, or in this session this is going to be a fourth session of our this chapter, that is control and coordination. So in previous session we are reached up to this slide, that is showing you the more detail about the reflex action or reflex arc, and in this previous chapter or session we have already seen what is peripheral nervous system, central nervous system, right, and then reflex action, the structure of the brain, which part are responsible for which thing, which functioning in our body, and then we have just started the reflex action, and we have already seen what is reflex action: a sudden or unconscious response or involuntary response of the body through the effectors of the effectors to the stimulus, whatever the stimuli happening in or around the body, whatever the effectors which are doing the response, that is immediately or unknowingly. We have seen the example of when we are touching to the hot objects, so we will remove our hand or legs immediately, unknowingly. So that will happen through this. With the help of this slide we have seen how the message from our sensory nerves reaching to the spinal cord. Here is the mixed nerve in the green color we have seen. Then it is just connect to the motor nerve, and motor nerve will take the message up to the brain, up to the muscles, and the muscles will contract immediately and we can be remove our hands. There is no need to send the message to the brain, and then it will just send for the information only, and then the brain will send the message, and then our motor nerve will be work like in a regular thing it will happen. But this is a new thing, or this is you can say the shortcut, because it is emergency situation when we are touching to the hot object. So it will happen from the spinal cord only, right. So that is why it is called a reflex arc or reflex action, immediate response to the stimuli. This is again in the detail we can also see when we are taking the other example, when our body it is having a pinprick, we having this kind of the thing, that is also sudden situation. Immediately we will know what happened to the body, and we will do the response. We will just remove the body part from that harmful thing. So same thing will be happen. The sensory nerve will be take the message up to the spinal cord. This part it is a cell body of the sensory nerve, you can see here, and then this part will just in the spinal cord, it is called interneuron, because here the sensory nerves, they are just attaching to the motor nerve. From this region the motor nerve will take the message from the spinal cord only and reaching up to the our muscles, that is called the effector or muscles. So here also we can also see the movement from the action, where the stimuli response to the stimuli, where the pin is there pricking to the body, and just it is reaching up to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord the action is given to the motor nerve, and it will just reach up to the effector muscles, and it will remove our body parts from that harmful situation. So that is actually happen into the reflex action. So that is very important and time consuming, taking the immediate action. So that is called the reflex arc, right, from the body part to the spinal cord. This is also one more example we can also say about the reflex arc. Here also first of all you just see here it is mentioned in the red color. So whatever the blue linings which is show here, that is a part of sensory nerves. When it is coming into the green, that is called the interneuron or mixed neuron. This part, this is the mixed neuron which is present inside the our spinal cord, and the red one is showing the motor nerve. From here to here, that is our motor nerve. So whenever our body is going to come in the contact of such kind of the hammer, so immediately the response is started from here, and through the our sensory nerve it is reaching up to the spinal cord. From the spinal cord it is just connecting through the interneuron and just giving message to the motor neuron. Motor neuron will bring the message to the muscles or the site of action, and immediately we will just move our leg. So that is also a reflex action we can understand by this example. The same thing will be happen, but the example we have taken different example. In this we are just moving our legs, with the to the stimuli that is hammering to our body, and it is immediately we are just removing our leg. It will done within a very shorter time, and only the message sent to the brain for information only. So that is also example of reflex arc we have seen here, right. In the next slide we can see reflex arc. Before we have seen reflex action, but in the reflex arc what we can say, it is the pathway of reflex action. It is called the reflex arc. The pathway which is used for the reflex action, that is called reflex arc. So in a reflex arc, the stimulus is received by the receptor, right, whatever the organs we can say, that is the receptor. You can see here, this is the stimuli, and first of all it is reaching to the receptor like a sense organ present in our skin, in our tongue, in our eyes, right. So that is ear. So that is receptors where the stimuli first of all reach depending on a type of the stimuli, and it is passes through the sensory nerves, right. These are the sensory nerves which are taking the message from the receptor to the spinal cord, and sensory nerves to the spinal cord. This is the spinal cord where the message will be reached, and the spinal cord will give command to the motor nerve, and motor nerve it will reach to the effectors, that is our muscles or gland. In different situation it is different. So the whole pathway will be complete from the stimuli through the receptor, and it is just through the sensory nerves it will reach to the spinal cord. Then from the spinal cord again it will go through the motor nerve and reach to the effector, our muscles, our gland, and the response will be happen. So this all the process we can say that is a reflex arc, and finally the action will be taken on to that stimuli. So that is, you have to just I request all the students just write down in your notebook, this pathway is very important, and how the reflex action will actually running in our body, that is easily understand by this flow chart you can also say, right. So in the next slide we will see reflex arc, how it is happening in more detail. In this you just the new thing you just understand, that is called the afferent and efferent fibers that are present or passes through the same nerve. When we are talking about one nerve, so they are just having a two kind of the receptor. One is called afferent, that is taking the message or stimuli from the body up to the spinal cord. You can divide here this part from here to here, that is you can say the afferent. And then there is a mixed nerve, as we have seen already, that is combining to our sensory and motor nerve. Then when the muscles or the which taking message from spinal cord to our effector, that is called motor nerves. So from here it is called the motor nerve. So this both the thing is coming together in one nerve, so that is we will see here, and the same thing will be happen, the message will be generated or the stimuli will be generated from the receptor through the sensory nerve, it will reach to the spinal cord. There is a mixed nerve, again this is it is taken through the motor nerve and reach to the effector, any muscles, any gland you can say, and the response will be happen. So the same thing will be you have to just keep in mind here also. The basic thing, stimuli, whatever the stimuli are there, whatever the conditions are there, our spinal cord is responding from itself only, and that is why it will save the time. So this will you have to just keep in your mind, reflex arc, time saving. Now up to this we have just talked all about the animal only, how in the human being, how in the other animal, the type of the brain, how the control and coordination is performed by as a type of the organs like our brain, spinal cord, nerves, neuron, everything we have just covered up to here. That is all about the animal we have already seen, but from here onwards in this slide we will just talk about the coordination in plant, right. Before we are just in all the slide we are just talking about the coordination in animal only, right. We have just seen the organs are responsible, or the process is responsible, and how the animals are doing, how they are coordinating in their body with such kind of the situation to controlling their body. Now plant also controlling their body in the means of you can say for the growth, for taking the water, for so many things, for the growth where their body parts have to be growth, why the shoot are just growing toward the sunlight, why the roots are growing toward the uh, means inside our soil, that is for taking the water or having the water. So this is also, and why some part of the plant which are growing more rapidly, and why some part of the plant they are not growing rapidly. So this is all will be control. They also need a process in, to control the things. So they are also having controlling or coordination system, but not exactly like our human beings. They don't have the brain, they don't have the nerves or the neurons, they don't have the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. So they are just doing with the help of some plant hormones, right? So they are just releasing some kind of the hormones, and with the help of that hormones they are having this kind of the activities, and they are controlling their movement, they are controlling their movement, all the movements, like growth movement, and which part will be grow in which direction, and this will see in the detail in this slide. So in the plants, control and coordination is done by the chemical substances called plant hormones. You can also say phytohormones. Hormones we have already seen in our previous slides, that is released from the glands and mixing into the blood, and they are controlling to the movement of the or the activities in the human beings or in the animals. But in plant also they are having several kind of the hormones that are controlling several things in the plant. So there are 5 main type of the plant hormones, and they are: number 1 auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin, abscisic acid, and ethylene. These are the enzymes, or sorry, hormone, plant hormone. So we will see one by one which hormone will do which kind of the function in the plant for the control and coordination. So auxin, it helps in the cell division or cell elongation and growth. Especially it is the part which is need more growth, when you can see the tip of the plant, right, or shoot part or root part, wherever it needs more growth, rapid growth. So that is in that part of the plant the auxin hormone is there, and which is means making the cell which divide more rapidly. So when the cell will divide rapidly, the plant will be grow in that part rapidly. If like you can say talk about the stem, so stem already for the protection only, it doesn't need more rapid growth, so in that it's less present. And in the tip of the plant or shoot or root of the plant tip part, where the fruit is there, leaves are dividing, so there is a more auxin are present, so it can be grow more rapidly. Or cell elongation, whatever the cell are there, that will elongate with the help of this. So in short you can say the growth of the plant, which part of the plant needs more growth, it will decided by this auxin hormone. The plant will release the auxin hormone in that area, so in that particular area the plant will be grow faster. So that is also a part of coordination in the plant, how they are just controlling the movement, whether the which part of the plant will grow more fast, which part doesn't need more growth, because of this auxin hormone. Second hormone we can say gibberellins, that helps growth of stem and branches, how the growth of the stem needs and how the growth of branches, right. It doesn't require, a stem doesn't require a more and more growth, as well as branches also, as compared to the tip of the plants. So that is a growth of the stem, which or which direction of which direction the stem have to grow, or which direction the branches have to grow, that will control by the this hormone. Next hormone cytokinins, that help in the cell division and formation of fruits and seeds. The plant cell, how it is dividing, how it is have to be divided, it is divide in which time, how it need to be divided more, or when it stop the dividing. So that is, you can say, the cell division of the plant. Formation of a fruit, right, plant having a special part where only the fruit will be grow, right? Tip of the plant, tip of the or the branches. So there the cytokinins hormones is there. And seeds, when the seeds will be grow, how the seed will grow, so that will control by this cytokinins. So this all the hormones, they are just controlling a spatial functioning into the plant. And the next, number 4, abscisic acid, that is inhibits the growth. Which part of the plant or where the plant needs to stop the growth, so that will decided by this abscisic acid. And affects, that is wilting of leaves, when the leaf want to be wilt from the tree, so there doesn't require a growth. So where the plant need to be stop the growth, it will release this kind of the hormone, that is abscisic acid, that will stop the growth of that part of the plant. So like in the example you can say the wilting of the leaves, when leaves want to be wilt, removed from the plant, so there this enzyme will be released and that part will be removed from the plant. So that is the name of that hormone is abscisic acid, to stop the growth in the spatial part or specific part of the plant, right? And the last one we can say ethylene, that is help in the flowering and ripening of the fruit. When the plant need a flower in that part, that is also controlled by the ethylene. When they want to grow the flower and when they want to ripen of the fruits, so that is also controlled by this hormone ethylene. So you can now understand how the different things are controlled in the plant, which part need to be more growth, which part need to be stop the growth, which part need to grow the seeds, which part need to be just removed from the tree, stop the growth, right? And when the flower need to be start growing from the buds, when the fruit need to be ripened. So this all the things will be controlled. There is also a control system in the plants. So with the help of this control system, they are just controlling different movement into the plant, right? So in the next slide we will see the movement in the plant, right? Movement means the plant is not just walking and just going from one place to another place. Movement means the movement in the plant are of two types. They are trophic movement or nastic movement. Like its growth, it is related to the growth. We can also say which in which direction the plant is growing. The plant of the, sometime we can see in our houses we are keeping the plant near the window. So the window having more sunlight, so plant automatically growing towards the direction of a sunlight. So that is how it is happen, how it is controlled. Why the shoot is growing in upper side of the land, like towards the light, sunlight, and why the roots are growing towards the land only. So what are the reason make the movement different in different part of the plant. So that is we can study in this slide in detail. So that is called the movement of basically two type, that is trophic movement and nastic movement. So number 1 we will see a tropic movement. So what is a tropic movement? That is a directional movement towards or away from the stimuli. It can be directional towards the stimuli or away from the stimuli. Stimuli we have already seen, the response around the plant or the body of the animal or plant. So whatever the response, like a response can be a water response, stimuli can be a sunlight. So that is two types, towards the stimuli or away from the stimuli, and it's depend on growth, that is affecting the growth where the plant is growing more. So they are of different types. Like now when we are talking about the growth of the plant for in the tropic movement, that is towards the stimuli or away from the stimuli, that is again divided into 4 types. Number 1, phototrophism, geotropism, chemotropism, hydrotropism. These are the movement related to the growth, which part of the plant is growing in which direction. So number 1 we will just see a phototrophism. Photo, already it means a light, so towards the light we can also understand the growth of the plant towards the light. So when or which part of the plant is growing towards the light, so is the movement of the plant in response to the light. Movement of the plant in the response of the light, from where the light is coming in our house. So the plant in your house will grow towards the light. So it is towards the light, it is called the positive trophism. When the plant is growing towards the light, the part of the plant is growing towards the light, that is a positive tropism. An example, you can say the bending of the shoots towards the light. In your house the plant is kept, so the shoots is bending towards the light, that is you can say the positive tropism, because it is going towards, from where the light is coming, it is going in the same direction, positive tropism you can also say. And that is having the negative tropism also, phototropism, that is you can say the bending of the roots away from the light, right. So now the movement of the roots is in the opposite direction of the light, from where the light is coming, the roots is growing in the opposite direction from the light is coming, that is what is called a negative phototrophism, right. So in the phototropism also you can divide in positive and negative. Towards the light the shoot part will grow, and opposite to the light the root part will be grow, and that is related to the light, that is what is called phototropism. Understood? Now the next we'll see geotropism, that is it is the movement of the plant response to the gravity. Geo related to the gravity, which part of the plant is growing towards the gravity of our land, or which part is growing away from the gravity of our land. So it is depending on the movement of the plant or the growth of the plant onto the response to the gravity, and it is towards the gravity, it is called the positive. The same thing when the part of the plant, example downwards growth of the roots are growing in the downward position, that is they are just growing towards the gravity or towards the gravitational force. So that is called a positive tropism or positive geotropism, right. The movement of the roots towards the gravity, it is called a, you can say a positive. And what is the negative geotropism? The example you can say upward growth of the shoot, right. So when the shoot is growing upward, so they are just opposing, they are just growing opposite to the direction of gravitational force. So that is in geotropism also positive and negative. Here the movement of the roots, that is a positive geotropism towards the gravity, and movement of the shoots, that is for geotropism, that is a negative, because they are just moving opposite to the gravitational force. So in all the examples you can having the positive and negative tropism. So that is called a geotropism towards the gravity. Number third, you can say chemotropism, that is a movement of the plant in response to the chemical stimuli, some kind of the chemicals that are releasing into the plant, and the plant is moving towards the chemical release into the plant, that is called chemotropism. You can compare with chemical and chemo. Example you can take, or you can say the growth of the pollen tubes towards the ovule, that is you can be understand by our in next slide I will show you the diagram. When you have seen the pollination, after the pollination the pollen grain will stuck to the stigma, and then the pollen will be moved towards the ovary or ovules. So that is you can say the movement of the pollen towards the ovule, that is a chemotropism. Growth of pollen tube, when the pollen tube will be grow, because it needs to grow to allow the movement of the pollen toward the ovary, so that after pollination inside that plant or the flower, there is a pollen tube will be grow, that is starting from the stigma and ending towards the ovules, that is providing the space or the direction of the direction to the pollen. So that is because of the chemical release, so it is come under the chemotropism. And the next you can say hydrotropism, the movement of the plant response to the water, that is you can also say the roots having a positive geotropism, because they are just moving towards the land, towards the water, and shoot part is growing opposite to the water, so that is called a hydrotropism, right. So in the tropic movement we have seen 4 example: phototropism, the movement of the plant towards the or related to the light; or to the response to the light. Second example, geotropism, the movement of the plant or the growth of the plant towards the gravity. And the third, chemical, the movement of the plant response to the chemical, right? And hydrotropism, the movement of the plant response to the water. So these are the movement where the plant is growing, because the growth of the plant is a movement for the plant, because plant movement, the plant cannot be moved from one place to another place. So that is why the growth of the plant we can consider as a movement into the plant. Understand? So in the next slide we will see, and these are example you can see, that is for phototrophism. Here you can see when you are keeping a plant near the window, so they are just growing towards the light. So that is a unidirectional light, we can say. So phototropism in the plant of moon beans or seedling of moon bean, the shoot is positive phototrophic. This case we can say the shoots, movement of the shoots, that is a positive movement, positive for the phototropism. So this movement of the stem or movement of the shoot part, that is a positive phototropism, because they are growing toward the sunlight. And then the movement of the roots, that you can say that is a negative phototropism. Understood? And then next example, geotropism, the movement of the roots or the movement of the part of the plant through the gravity. So here inside our land, because of the gravity, the roots are going downwards. So this is a positive geotropism in the roots, and negative in the shoot, because the shoots, they are growing opposite to the gravity. So this part is a positive geotropism, and this part you can say the negative geotropism, right? One more example we will see for the chemotropism that I have discussed you before. The movement of the pollen tube, this is the pollen tube. So when it is growing towards the ovule, so that is because of some chemical. This is the ovule, which is having female germ cell. So when the pollen will get attached towards the stigma, that is in the pollination, so this pollen have to be reached towards the ovule. So that is why the pollen tube will be grow into the style. This part is called style. So the movement of the pollen tube, why it is only moving toward the ovule only? So that is because of several chemicals are there. So this movement is called chemotropism, right? So this is the positive movement, because it is moving towards the ovule or towards the chemical. So that is called chemotropism. So these are three type of the trophism we have seen: phototrophism, geotropism, and chemotropism. And this all will come under the movement for the plant only, right? So the next remaining only we will see here, that is a nastic movement. And to the nastic movement, that is actually, just keep in mind, that is not that is, you can say, non-directional movement. There is no need of any directional, and that is only because of stimulus only. When we are taking the example of the plant that is called touch me not, and when you are just touching to the leaves of that plant, so hold the plants or the region where you are touching, so that all the leaves, they are just get closed for the protection of that plant. And that is because of the water, the movement of the water, which is depending upon the amount of the water in the leaves, it swells or shrinks. So because of this swelling and shrinking, the opening and closing of the leaves will be happen, and that is you can say the nastic movement. If it touch the leaves of the touch me not plant, it leaves folded up and drops down immediately due to the change in the amount of the water. When you are touching, the amount of the water will be move from higher to lower, and the leaves will be closed, and depending upon the amount of the water in the leaves, the cell will be swell up. So the movement and the leaves will be open after some time, and when it want to shrink, it will shrink and the leaves will be closed. So it is called the nastic movement. It is not having any kind of the direction, but it is happening because of the water level into the plant. So these are the movements which are present into the plant we have seen in this lecture. So just whatever the things we have seen here, go through this. The remaining part for endocrine system we will see in our next lecture. So up to that, go through whatever the points we have discussed here. Write down the important points in your notebook. What is the movement in the plant, whatever the two types of the movement, like trophic movement and nastic movement, types of the trophic movement, right? Coordination, whatever the example of the hormones which are controlling the growth or the movement or coordination into the plant. So these are you can also draw the reflex arc or reflex arc, you can draw like this. So that is a better understanding for you, and you can prepare your short notes with the help of this all the points. So whatever remaining points we will take in our next session. Up to that, take care.